Today, we're going to be ranking each and every single fight at UFC 300 from S to D, ladies and gentlemen. So, grab yourself a drink, grab yourself some popcorn, roll yourself some of that Zaza, and let's go ahead and get down to ranking these fights, ladies and gentlemen. Now, first, we got Jim Miller versus Keep Me Away From Your Wife, Bobby Green himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, first of all, Bobby Green had a pretty active last year. I think he had 4 fights in 2023, pretty active. But let's not cap, man. He hasn't been doing too good. He's only won 2 out of his last 5 fights, and the way he got knocked out by Jalen Turner in his last fight in December. That was pretty brutal. That was pretty brutal to watch. Of course, we know that Jim Miller is a legend in the game, right? He's been at UFC 100, he's been at UFC 200, and of course, we know that he is a person that needed to be at UFC 300 for sure. I don't expect to see like a super high level MMA fight, if I'm being completely honest, but what I do know is that this fight is going to be very, very entertaining. I mean, of course, we know that Bobby Green is a fighter that always likes to come forward. He's a very striking, heavy guy. If you guys listen to his interview, he's always talking about how he wants to be a very entertaining fighter. And, you know, I think his fighting style reflects that, if I'm being completely honest. Even though he doesn't have the prettiest career recently in terms of wins, we know what we could expect to see from Bobby Green. And of course, Jim Miller, he's never shied away from the fire either. I mean, I do expect this to be a very entertaining fight. These guys are not young guys, right? Bobby Green is 37 years old. Jim Miller is 40 years old. So like I said, don't expect to see a super world-class performance. But I do expect this to be a good fight, a decent fight, a very entertaining fight with nonetheless. So if I had to grade this fight from a scale of S to D, I'm going to put this as a very high B. A very high B. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree down in the comment section below. And now for the bantamweight matchup, that is Cody Garbrandt versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Both of these guys are former champions. Of course, Deiveson Figueiredo was the champion at flyweight, and Cody Garbrandt is a former champion of the bantamweight division. Now, both of these guys were supposed to fight each other a couple years ago, but Cody Garbrandt pulled out of that fight because apparently he pulled his bicep, or he injured his bicep, something like that. But anyways, yeah, this fight is going to be very entertaining. Of course, we know that Cody Garbrandt, he's trying to make his way back up to becoming champion. He lost a couple fights in the last couple of years. So this fight is going to be a very, very telltale sign if he's ready to potentially make a run back at becoming a champion again. And of course, Deiveson Figueiredo is testing himself in the bantamweight division. Now, I've been saying this all year long. The bantamweight division is the most competitive division currently right now. Expect to see a lot of great fights from this division. And of course, with Deiveson Figueiredo moving up to bantamweight, former champion, against another former champion, this fight has the possibility to be a very, very sleeper fight, given the fact that both of these guys are known to throw down. These might be little guys, these might be small guys, but they can throw some punches, ladies and gentlemen. I think this fight is going to be very, very competitive, giving at what's in stake, right? Because if Deiveson Figueiredo beats a former champion, well, obviously he's going to try to get some better matchups in the future. And for Cody Garbrandt, for him to beat a former champion, right, in a lesser division, oh, not lesser division, but at a lighter division, obviously that's going to give him some good reasons to fight better fights and potentially make a run towards fighting for the belt again. Now, I think this fight, if we have to rate it appropriately, I think this is an A-level fight, ladies and gentlemen. A sleeper fight, if I'm being completely honest. The bantamweight division is a very, very technical division. Everything is fast. Everything is quick. Everything is technical. The bantamweight division is a division that is very, very sound in all of those aspects. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and move on to the next fight. Now, the next fight is going to be Marina Rodriguez versus Jessica Andrade. And let me just say this. I got a whole lot of shit from speaking my mind about this fight. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? My opinion has not changed from this fight. This isn't a fight that I'm like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just not, I'm just not. When Dana White came out and said that he was going to give us fights for UFC 300 that was going to blow our freaking heads off, I didn't expect for him to say Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. I mean, I feel like this is a fight that they could have just added into any other UFC event, and it would have been like, well, okay, you know what I'm saying? But for UFC 300, I think they could have done a better job at looking for other fights, if I'm being completely freaking honest. And you guys could go ahead and let me know down in the comment section below how much I hate, you know what I'm saying, women fighting. Anyways, I get it, ladies and gentlemen. Jessica Andrade is 25-12, former champion. Marina Rodriguez is 17-3. This is gonna be a very intriguing fight. If she could beat Jessica Rodriguez, obviously she's gonna go ahead and fight some better quality fights with some better quality opponents, and hopefully one day fight for the belt. But if I'm just being completely honest, this isn't a fight that's on my priorities list, and don't you guys dare go in the comments and accuse me of being a woman hater. That's not fair, because there is some fights here at UFC 300 that involve women that I am very intrigued to watch. But this fight, I'm gonna just be honest, it isn't one of them. I think I called this fight in the last video like the beer run, you know what I'm saying, the smoke break, or the let's go ahead and call pizza, let's go ahead and call the Domino's or Pizza Hut. Yeah, and I still stay true to that 100%. This fight is not something that's super high on my priorities list. So if we had to rate this fight from a scale of S to D, we're gonna go ahead and put it at a decent C. It's an all right fight. We're gonna go ahead and put it at a decent C. And the next fight that's on the list, ladies and gentlemen, it's none other than Money Moicano and the tarantula himself, Jalen Turner. I mean, what is there to say? Money Moicano had a very, very good performance his last fight. Who did he fight? That one dude with the chin. What's his name? Drew Dober. And of course, we know that Jalen Green absolutely had one of the craziest knockouts and one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen. A lot of it has to do with the ref not stopping the fight, you know, because the fight could have ended a lot earlier than that. But whenever he knocked out Bobby Green, I was like, damn, this is freaking crazy. This is obviously a very, very tough fight for both guys. I mean, what Money Moicano was able to do to Drew Dober and just control him on the ground was pretty impressive, because we know that Drew Dober, he's a big dude. He's a very, very strong guy. And Moicano wasn't really controlling him with brute strength. He was controlling him with technique, which is going to be very impressive to see if he can do or manage to do some of those same things to someone as long and as tall as Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner is a fighter that has a very interesting system. He's super long. He's able to hit you from range, right? And he's a very, very smart striker. He likes to switch from orthodox to southpaw, disengage, feint. You guys can name it. I think the ceiling for someone like Jalen Turner is super, super high. I think that eventually he could probably be one of the most elite fighters in the UFC if they give him the time to develop, if I'm just being completely honest. And of course, you know, Money Moicano, he always comes and delivers. He's a very entertaining guy. I love hearing this dude talk on the mic. Super, super entertaining person. If I had to rate this fight from S to D, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honestly gonna rate this an A. Just because of what these guys can do, what they've proven in the last couple fights. Both these guys are in the middle of their physical prime. So I cannot wait to see this fight. This fight is definitely A tier. The next fight we have on the list is Super Sodiq Yusuff and Diego Lopez. I don't know how it's looking on the odds, if I'm being completely honest, but this fight, in my opinion, is a little bit up in the air. These guys, I think the age difference is like a year, so they're pretty much the same age. So the Yusuff is ranked number 12 and Diego Lopez is ranked number 18. Right now, Diego Lopez has more wins in his career than Sodiq Yusuff has professional fights. So I think that the advantage is on Diego Lopez's side because of experience. And for that reason, I think that this fight could be a very entertaining fight. Even though Sodiq Yusuff is higher on the rankings, I think this fight is going to be very entertaining. If we had to grade this fight from a scale to S to D, honestly, I'm going to give it I'm gonna give it a high B. I'm gonna give it a high B. I think it goes in front of Bobby Green and Jim Miller. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, whether you agree or disagree with this ranking. And now for our next fight is going to be Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. This fight was pretty interesting to me. Not too sure why we're seeing Kayla Harrison at UFC 300, given the fact that this is going to be her first fight in the UFC. But what I think that the UFC is trying to do is that they're trying to push her in the UFC, possibly by giving her a name that everybody knows, right? Holly Holm is a name that pretty much every UFC fan knows. She's the person who beat Ronda Rousey, and that's the reason why she blew up, pretty much. And I think that they're trying to use Holly Holm kind of as a person to welcome Kayla Harrison into the UFC, because if Kayla Harrison is able to beat someone like Holly Holm, obviously the UFC are going to try to do as much as possible to push her in the organization. In my opinion, this isn't a fight that I'm too excited for, but I understand that it's a highly competitive fight. Both of these women are in the top 10. If I had to rate it from a scale of S to D, I'm going to go ahead and put it at a low B, if I'm being completely honest. This next fight is a fight that I am excited to see, and that is Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. Of course, we know Aljamain Sterling is the former champion in the bantamweight division, and say whatever you guys want to say about the guy, but I think that he's a pretty good and smart fighter. Anybody who's like mature enough is going to agree to that. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people that like to hate on the guy for whatever reason, whether it be because, he lost to Sean O'Malley in a pretty embarrassing way, or because he accidentally won the title the first time. I think that Aljamain Sterling is a pretty good fighter. And Calvin Kattar, Calvin Kattar is obviously taking some risk because, he's been in a bit of a losing streak. He lost to Josh Emmett and he lost to Arnold Allen. But I think, if he beats a former champion, right, whether or not he was the former champion in the bantamweight division, I think it'll still show that he has the capability to perform at the highest level in this organization. Oh my God. But it's a very intriguing fight. Given the fact that if Aljamain Sterling beats Calvin Kattar, I think that there might be some conversations in the division that he might be a fighter that could realistically fight Ilia Topuria sometime soon if he's able to maybe win a fight or two in the featherweight division. But yeah, if I had to grade this fight, given at what's at stake for Aljamain Sterling and possibly fighting Ilia Topuria in the future, I'm gonna grade this fight a low B, a low A, actually, a low A. Now, for the next fight, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the former light heavyweight champion Jiri Prochazka versus the big, the scary, the return of Alexander Rakic. Now, for those of you guys that have not seen Alexander Rakic fight, because of course we know he's been away because of his injury, go watch the Jan Blachowicz versus Alexander Rakic fight. That fight was really entertaining. Super, super, super high, crazy pace for some big men. Now, if I'm just being completely honest, I think that Jiri Prochazka right now wants to keep the momentum going in his career. So, of course, if he beats someone as scary as Alexander Rakic, obviously, he makes a good, a decent argument to be a fighter, to possibly fight maybe Alex Pereira once again sometime soon in his career. And of course, if Alexander Rakic beats someone like Jiri Prochazka, man, this could be a very telltale sign that he might eventually fight someone like Alex Pereira. And ladies and gentlemen, that could be a banger of a fight itself. Imagine 6'4" Alexander Rakic versus a big, how tall is Alex Pereira? 6'5", 6'4"? That would be an incredible fight. Both these guys are huge. They're like cut up 6'4" guys. Like, that would be a very, very entertaining fight. But yeah, if I had to grade this fight from a scale of S to D, we're gonna put this right in front of the Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt fight. A plus. That fight is going to be very, very entertaining, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and for the next fight, it's the fight that it's kind of controversial right now, because there's a lot of people that are mad that this fight is before the Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundish fight, and that is the Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan fight, which I think is going to be a really, really competitive fight. Of course, we know that Arman Tsarukyan He's a strong grappler. If I could recommend anyone to watch a fight where we can see Arman Sarukian's true skill, is Arman Sarukian versus Islam Makhachev. That fight was absolutely grappling gold, ladies and gentlemen. You have no idea the amount of good positioning, good decisions that was made from both fighters. I mean, both fighters had their moments. Of course, Islam Makhachev won that fight. But if I'm just being completely honest, both fighters had their good moments in that fight, and I think that gives the fans, the people, a good scope of what Arman Sarukian is capable of doing. Now, Charles Oliveira, I mean, he had the opportunity to fight Islam Makhachev, but of course he had to pull out of that fight because he got like a gash over his eye, and they gave that fight to Alexander Volkanovski in short notice. And of course, right now he needs to make a good impression on why he deserves to fight for the title next. Now, this is a very, 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 very dangerous fight for Charles Oliveira. And, I'm just being completely honest, man. This is a dangerous fight from both fighters. If I had to I'm going to put this fight up in the S tier. I'm going to put this fight up in the S tier just because of what's at stake, man. Because I think Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev, the storyline to that fight is really good. The storyline to that fight is really, really good. Even if we see, Arman Sarukian fight Islam Makhachev next, that would be a fight that I definitely would love to see as well. I mean, this fight deserves to be an S tier fight, right? Because of what's at stake and the caliber, right? The caliber of fighter that Charles Oliveira is, and the new up and coming fighter that is Arman Sarukian. He gets a chance to prove himself against tip top opponent, middle of his prime, Charles Oliveira. Of course, we've seen that Arman Sarukian, he's the favorite in this fight, and I think there might be some recency bias, with the whole Beneil Dariush fight and the knockout that we saw from Arman Sarukian. But yeah, I give both of these fighters a pretty even edge. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen Charles Oliveira, so we don't know exactly what form he's in. And of course, Arman Sarukian, he has the whole narrative going for him, right? That he's the young and hungry fighter. Well, it's time to prove that. And yeah, this fight, in my opinion, is very, very accurately ranked. Okay, and the next fight, probably the most controversial fight because of where it's positioned within the other fights in the card, is Bo Nickal versus Cody Brundage. I'm gonna just go ahead and say this, ladies and gentlemen. My take on this entire fight is obviously gonna be biased, to say the least, because my striking mentor is also one of Bo Nickal's coaches. So obviously, my take on this is gonna be very, very biased. For those of you guys that don't know, I do tons and tons of hours on film studying fights, more than I, hop on YouTube and make content for each and every single one of you guys. If I'm not making content for YouTube, I am trying to study my ass off. So whenever I do transition into making educational videos that involve combat sports, I know what the fuck I'm freaking talking about. So I'm always doing work on the back end when it comes to combat sports. When I transition to that period and I feel comfortable in seeing what's going on in a fight, you guys will definitely see more combat sports educational content. But I have a striking mentor, and he just so happens to be one of Bo Nickal's striking coaches. I mean, it is what it is. I have a ton of respect for this coach. His name is Barry Robinson. I've learned a lot from this guy, and I think he has one of the best systems out there. And we're gonna see how that system is going to be performed whenever we see Bo Nickal take on Cody Brundage. In my opinion, I feel like the majority of this fight is going to be, grappling, wrestling. If I'm just being completely honest, I mean, of course, we're going to see some striking, but the way that Cody Brundage is dispositioned whenever he has an opponent right in front of him, it just screams that he just wants to grab you and hold you and just do some ground and pound. And obviously, Bo Nickal, he's going to make some adjustments to that. But I think this fight, like I said, is a biased opinion. It's a biased opinion. I'm going to go ahead and put it B+ in front of all these fights if I'm just being completely honest with each and every single one of you guys. And of course, the next fight we have, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. I really don't need to do a too deep of a breakdown. Of course, this fight deserves to be an S tier fight. I said it weeks ago. If Max Holloway wants a real chance of beating Justin Gaethje and getting that BMF title, he needs to go ahead and work on getting some power. The fight he had against Dustin Poirier was very impressive. There was a lot of high volume in that fight from Max Holloway, not too much power. But like I said a couple weeks ago, it looks like Max Holloway has been doing some really good, doing some great things when it comes to strength and conditioning. He's been getting really yoked. You can tell that he's been putting on a lot of size. And I think I can confidently say that we might see a Max Holloway with power at lightweight, which is going to be very dangerous. So we got to rank this fight very appropriately. It deserves an S tier without a doubt. And now it's time for the first championship fight of the night, and that is Zhang Weili versus Yang Xiaonan. Now, look, Zhang Weili right now, I think she has a 3-fight winning streak. Xiaonan is on a 2-fight winning streak. In terms of striking, man, it's kind of up in the air. Like, they're both technically sound when it comes to the striking. But I will say this. If this fight turns into a grappling match or a wrestling match, Zhang Weili, in my opinion, is going to go ahead and take over. Now, I am very curious to see how many title defenses Zhang Weili is able to get. She's a very solid fighter. I think it's only right if we give this fight a very appropriate ranking of, you know, an A+. A+. We're going to give this fight an A+. Now, that brings us to the main event, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, there was a lot of people that were upset that we didn't get Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, or we didn't get John Jones versus another fighter that he could have fought against to headline UFC 300. But nonetheless, I do think that this is a very good main event for UFC 300, given the storyline and what's at stake. For Jamal Hill, you know what I'm saying? He's the former champion. He beat up Alex Pereira's coach, which is Glover Teixeira. And, you know, of course, Alex Pereira, he wants to have a very successful title defense so that he can go over and fight at UFC 301 in Brazil. So given at what's at stake, ladies and gentlemen, I do enjoy this storyline. I do think that this is a very good card for UFC 300, despite what everybody else is saying. Everybody's hyped for this fight. Let's not lie to ourselves. Let's not lie to ourselves. There's a lot of people in the MMA community that are like, oh, we should have gotten Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. We should have gotten John Jones and Tom Aspinall. Well, you know what I'm saying? This is a good fight. This is a good fight nonetheless. So we have to rate this fight appropriately. This is the third S tier fight of the card, in my opinion. Obviously, I put these two fights ahead of it, but it's still an S tier fight nonetheless. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys agree or disagree with any of my takes on this fight. Hopefully you guys are enjoying these tier list videos because I'm having a blast making them. And yeah, without further ado, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Peace out and have a good one.